Donald Trump and Karoline Leavitt have done everything they possibly can to suppress the media. They kicked the AP out of the White House press corps. They just launched a website with media bias offenders to try to scare the press. But there is one person that Karoline Leavitt cannot silence, and it's someone very close to her. Her family member who was detained by ICE and is now speaking out as Donald Trump's term collapses, and Karoline Leavitt herself is panicked. We are going to get into what this family member said, breaking her silence. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way in supporting our channel. Now, before we get into what Karoline Leavitt's family member had to say, someone I'm sure she wants to keep silent, I want to start with what Jasmine Crockett is saying about Donald Trump's broader immigration crackdown and the breaking news you need to know right here.
Yeah, so first of all, we heard the story of a U.S. citizen who was on her way to work. And as she tried to tell them, listen, I'm a U.S. citizen, they would not listen, and she was taken into custody. We also heard about just the conditions, the horrific conditions that human beings are being kept in, the unsanitary conditions. But here's the reality. We went to L.A. I've been to Chicago to hear stories about, how much force is being used when people are being detained. But I can go right home. And I know the stories of my constituents. I know about a young lady who's only 21 years old and had consistently showed up to her appointments, and she was nabbed at one of those appointments. Her family said, make sure she's got her diabetic medication. They tried to give it to them. They would not take it. Ultimately, 5 days later, when they didn't give her medication, they had to take her to a hospital. They then put her back into custody, and ultimately there were issues with literally, I won't get so graphic, but involving urine and some other things.
Feel free to get graphic.
Well, there were allegations that because they were actually depriving them of water, that they literally were having to drink their own urine. This can't be America. But obviously, in Trump's America, this is exactly what he wants. And the idea that one person can get out of line and commit such a horrific crime as shooting two National Guardsmen that never, ever asked to be here. In fact, we know the young lady that lost her life, specifically, we're saying that this is a waste of time. But now you want to go against every single immigrant. That doesn't make sense. And it's frankly not who we are, because if that's the case, let's talk about the white supremacists and how many of them need to be kicked out of this country, because I can guarantee you I can track down more crimes that they've committed, because overall immigrants have a lower crime committal rate than white supremacists. But we don't want to talk about that in this country.
The FBI has for years said that homegrown terrorism is actually a much bigger issue than anything from any other country. One of the things that we keep hearing the president say is that he is going to denaturalize people. There should be people denaturalized, people who don't adhere to Western civilization values, whatever that means. I'm curious what you think about that, because one, it's not something he can do, right? He can't go around waving a wand and denaturalize people. There's a process. He's not supposed to.
Okay.
There's a legal process to that.
Yeah.
But what do you think is actually behind that? Because he probably knows that he can't do it. But what do you think he's trying to signal?
I think he is trying to do what he's always done, which is instill fear. He wants people to go into the shadows. He wants people to hide out the way that they're doing right now. People are not sending their kids to school. They're not showing up to work. He is wanting people to be terrified, and he only wants his kind of people on the streets. He wants everyone else to kind of languish in the shadows. But we can start with the fact that he's married a couple of immigrants himself, and we can start there if we about to start denaturalizing. I'm just saying. And this is also the party that supposedly is about Christianity, and I just imagine what they would have done to a little baby Jesus, but that's a whole other issue. It is really so heartbreaking. We know that under the prior Trump administration, it was the children in cages. So for me, expecting them to do better by children was not one of the things that was on my bingo card. I never expected them to do better. I expected them to do worse.
The cruelty is always the point for Donald Trump, and that has really been the overarching theme of this administration. They want people scared. They want communities afraid. They want to make you believe that Donald Trump holds all the power. I always talk about this idea of inevitability that they try to instill, that Donald Trump will always win, so we shouldn't even try. But that is the the opposite approach that must be taken. We have to be calling these people out constantly and elevating the voices that they are trying to silence, which is exactly what the family member of Karoline Leavitt, who is detained by ICE, her attorney is doing right now, sharing her story, breaking the silence, and going public with new info. Leavitt's relative detained by ICE addresses their relationship. Karoline Leavitt's close relative still has deep respect and admiration for the White House press secretary, even as she stays silent about her detention in an immigration facility. Bruna Ferreira, 33, was taken into immigration customs custody earlier this month while picking up her 11-year-old son, Leavitt's nephew and godson, from school in Revere, Massachusetts. The Department of Homeland Security alleges the Brazilian national overstayed a tourist visa. Ferreira, who is being held at the South Louisiana ICE Processing Center in Basile and has had no bad blood towards Karoline Leavitt or her family, and holds the 28-year-old Trump official in high esteem, her attorney told WMUR, an ABC affiliate in Leavitt's native New Hampshire. She is not doing well, but she is strong and resilient. Leavitt's brother Michael also told the outlet he was most concerned about the well-being and safety of his son, who he said Ferreira has maintained a close relationship with. The attorney said his client has been in the United States since she first entered at 6 years old and was granted deferred action for childhood arrivals, or DACA, an immigration program established in 2012 that provides children brought to the U.S. with protection from deportation and work permit. The attorney also pushed back on lies shared by DHS, claiming that Ferreira overstayed a tourist visa that lapsed in 1999 and that she has a prior battery arrest. Individuals with serious criminal records are ineligible for DACA. Bruna has no criminal record whatsoever. I don't know where that is coming from, the attorney told WMUR. Show us the proof. There are no charges out there. She is not a criminal, illegal alien. We're hearing that said about anyone who's not a U.S. citizen, he added, referring to her detainment as a political football. So, of course, Karoline Leavitt's nephew's mother is going to say positive things about her. I think it would be an incredibly scary place to be in, to attack Karoline Leavitt while also being under the control of Donald Trump's ICE goons. So I don't actually really believe that. But what is clear is that that is something you have to do if you want to save yourself in this administration, and that's what they expect. They expect people to cater to the desire for Trump to be praised, to Leavitt to be praised, and to pretend that everything that is happening is humane and is following the law. It's just not true. And for Karoline Leavitt not to speak out about her family member having her immigration status lied about as she is being detained just goes to show the depravity of this administration and the hypocrisy that is rampant through it. That is all we heard from the right, that this person was a criminal, that they're an illegal, all of which at this moment, and according to her attorney, is not true. And it's no surprise that those lies would be coming out of DHS. The hypocrisy is blatant, and it continues as Donald Trump, with the whole point of his supposed immigration crackdown being about preventing drugs from coming into America, Donald Trump keeping us safe even though he's causing undue harm with these ICE crackdowns. His latest pardon runs completely counter to that, and one of his biggest buddies in the Senate, Markwayne Mullin, was unable to defend it this morning.
Presidential power is pretty much absolute, and I get that. But as an ally of the president, as a senator, you, I'm sure, have an opinion. Is, on the one hand, threatening Venezuela and Maduro, while on the Maduro, and on the other hand, saying that you're going to pardon a guy who was convicted in an American justice system for doing exactly what you're saying, you know, intentionally poisoning Americans with drugs. Is that a good idea?
Well, I wasn't involved in the conversations that he had with the president of Honduras at the time. I believe there's probably a good faith that is being stretched forth here. If you saw the True Social post he put out, there was a direct message. I guarantee you the president's foreign affairs approach is one that's being very effective around the world, a lot better than the Biden administration. That's why world leaders are coming in every single day wanting to visit with the president. That's why the president is able to stop 8 foreign wars and hopefully 9 if we can hopefully negotiate a deal between Ukraine and Russia, because the world leaders respect him. And so what the president is doing is always calculated. And I haven't had a direct conversation with the president about it, but I do trust his natural reaction and his approach to foreign affairs, because we can see it's being very, very effective.
I want to turn.
So Donald Trump has decided that he can essentially declare war on U.S. cities on the basis of stopping drug trafficking and starting his own war on drugs with a much bigger military budget. But a buddy of his, another corrupt president, again, tried in the United States, Donald Trump will pardon that person? I really don't understand how any of the MAGA faithful can get on board with something like this when it is the pretext for Donald Trump breaking yet another campaign promise, saying that he was going to be the no new wars president and that Kamala Harris would somehow send us into World War III. And now we've decided we're going to war with Venezuela, and they are all on board. Something that was supposed to be the sticking point of Donald Trump's campaign, a campaign of peace and the Nobel Peace Prize, has now fallen apart, faster than, I guess, Karoline Leavitt at a normal press conference? Yeah, it's rampant hypocrisy. And it's what we've come to expect from this administration. It is why we can never take these people seriously. I never do. I don't think anyone should. But their lies are so clear, they're so obvious, the hypocrisy is so blatant, it is so constant. And especially with someone right now, like Pete Hegseth, who is actively being exposed for the war crimes that he has committed, I could not believe anyone getting on board with the idea that this is the no new wars administration. And that is why Mark Kelly has been so loud in calling it out, as he did right here.
He said he was going to go after drug dealers, gang members, criminals. What we've seen so far is a little bit of that and a lot of just breaking up communities, going after people like Kelly Yu, who is in an ICE detention center in Phoenix, who I visited, who is a business owner. She's got 70 employees. She fled China 20 years ago, fleeing communist China, came to this country. She is undocumented. Her mom's a U.S. citizen, her kid's a U.S. citizen, sister's a U.S. citizen. She has a deportation order. She is no threat to anybody. There are hundreds, if not thousands or tens of thousands of these people.
But these are legal immigrants that he's talking about. And
he's kicked out legal immigrants already. This is kind of more of the same from this president. When he says things like third world countries, what is he really saying? I think what he's saying is he doesn't want brown people in our country. And that is disturbing, and it's un-American.
There has to be justice brought to people like Karoline Leavitt, like Kristi Noem, like Pete Hegseth, like Stephen Miller. And we are certainly going to be advocating for that on this show. I do not believe that there will ever be a time to move on and make amends and just go forward and restore the heart of the nation without real accountability. It has to be brought. They have to be taught a lesson. And I think we need to start talking about that now, because it seems to be the only language that these people understand. We're going to on this show. If you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. If you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Keep on fighting, y'all. Don't let them silence you. And until next time, I'll see you soon.